Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for having me. I want to tell you a quick little history about the category as a whole, because it's important for this particular framework for people to understand why the e-cigarette currently is regulated as a tobacco product in Europe and why it's going to be regulated as a tobacco product in the United States. The e-cigarette, when I started very early on in early 2000s, I found that Dr. Han Lick, who came out with a product in the US and actually tried to get the product legalized as a stop smoking device, that the FDA quickly banned that product from the US. It stated that as a smoking cessation device or as a medical product, it has to fall within the definition of what a medicine is. And the definition in the US, as well as in Europe, a medicine is a product that has to have pharmacological effect. And I don't want to use a lot of expensive terms here, but that basically means it has to have the ability to alter the function of mind and body. A medicinal product will then have to either stop, cure, or mitigate a course of a disease. When the government came after me in the US and shut my company down and basically did a nationwide import ban across the United States in 2009, I was faced with two choices. A, I could quit and not be in the e-cigarette business, but I believed in the product, or I could actually sue the FDA, the Justice Department, and the Department of Health and Human Services and change the law. I decided to do the last. I sued the FDA, the Justice Department, and the Department of Health and Human Services to prove that the product was not a medicinal product and that by the definition of what a tobacco product was in the United States, which means a product that is derived from stem or leaf of a tobacco product, that therefore the e-cigarette, when it's using nicotine derived from stem or leaf of a tobacco product, is therefore a tobacco product. So with that said, I had to fight and change the law. I defeated the Justice Department, the FDA, and the Department of Health and Human Services in 2010 to prove that point, because I wanted to make sure that the product was going to be readily available in areas where the current smoker was looking to purchase their conventional cigarettes. And that is exactly what we did. The entire market saw an explosion in the United States of products being available across the board in all different types of stores like tobacco products, and especially in those places where tobacco products were sold and were prevalent. After that, because of some family history, I decided to go to Europe, and when I got to Europe in 2011, I saw that in 24 of the then 27 countries, e-cigarettes had also been categorized as a medicinal product. That means the product there, in some cases, were available, but were sold in a manner that was inconsistent with the law, meaning that these products were potentially sold, but they were sold without any regulatory oversight and were sold in many places in just any segment of any store. So we looked at that process and saw that as long as the product was defined as a medicinal product, but sold illegally anyway, that there was no oversight, no standards, no GMP standards to the product. There was absolutely nobody looking at this category, with exception of those stores that had their product confiscated for making claims, etc. So in 2012, I returned to Europe and sued the Netherlands to change the law and define the product as a tobacco product, because a product that is derived from stem or leaf of a tobacco plant is therefore a tobacco product. I succeeded in 2012, defeated the Dutch government, which gave me the ability to enter the European Union. We then, with the team, and Henich thinks I'm the Lone Ranger, but we have brilliant teams, and certainly most of the things that we accomplish is 100% due to the brilliant teams that we have. we went into the European Parliament, and with great opposition from those who believed that this should not be a tobacco product, and certainly did not want it to be a medicinal product, but really didn't have a pathway to where this product could be legally sold in Europe, because as a consumer product it would be very difficult for a product that is designed for adults and contains nicotine, which is an addictive substance. We then changed the law in the European Union after about a year and a half of serious debates with government entities and regulatory bodies. So we now have the TPD in Europe, which is the Tobacco Product Directive. The Tobacco Product Directive does several things. It regulates the product, even though it's not perfect, certainly is not perfect, but it is a product that was developed through give and take between the actual industry and those regulatory bodies that are looking to regulate it. Why is that important? And we're now in today. The reason why regulation for an industry is important, because there are vape shops here and there are potential brand owners here that are looking at building a category and building a brand for their product in the Asian regions, or potentially in Europe, or potentially in the US. Without regulation, you simply cannot build a product. You have to have standards. You have to have a clear path on what and how this product is going to be brought into the marketplace. You also want to be regulated so that those who do not adhere to any regulation don't have the ability to be in the marketplace. So when you look at the overall strategy, anytime you have a product that is sold to the consumer, you have to have some regulation so that you have a base for why that product is sold and what and how it's manufactured. So the issue today is, where do we stand? Where do we stand in Hong Kong, for instance? Hong Kong is no different than the rest of the world. I think that Hong Kong currently has it in the medicinal category. That is a problem because, again, the law and the definition here is identical to the rest of the world, where a product that is in the medicinal category has to somehow, some way, cure, mitigate, or stop the course of a disease. Nicotine, just like caffeine, being natural occurring alkaloids, which are found in everything from tomatoes, potatoes, broccoli, nicotine is a natural alkaloid. So that product does not have the ability to stop a disease or cure a disease or mitigate the course of a disease. It is only a stimulant, just like caffeine, and I know some of you are enjoying caffeine with the coffee. It is the exact same thing, basically the same thing. So for that product to be then regulated as a medicinal device is just a way for government and potentially big pharma to stop that product from being sold into the marketplace and be sold to consumers. The only way this product will actually survive is if it has the ability to compete against the worst product on the planet and the deadliest product on the planet, which is conventional tobacco. Conventional tobacco is responsible for 4 million deaths annually. And that is the exact reason why we would like the e-cigarette to be available in those places where people are currently selling their products, the conventional cigarette. It has been proven over and over that the individual who smokes conventional cigarettes does not want to go to a pharmacy to buy their products because they don't think that they're sick. They have a habit. They just want to buy a product in the same place that they bought a product before, and they would love to buy a product that gives them the same euphoria, which is the way you feel after you smoke a cigarette, and they want to get that from a product that's manufactured with standards that are up to par. And so, therefore, we made sure that the product being sold in tobacco categories now has that particular customer in mind and has the ability to compete against conventional tobacco. And that is why we've always fought for this product to be in that category. Besides the law, we're only looking at actually selling a product to the current tobacco user. And that is why we've been extremely successful. And that is also why now you've seen the bigger brands who have adopted that same ideology become even more successful. And that is why the biggest brands now also, in some cases, have sold out to Big Tobacco, because Big Tobacco understood now that their current tobacco, conventional tobacco product, has seen a serious decline in their sales because e-cigarettes have been so effective in transitioning people away from conventional tobacco cigarettes to the e-cigarette. But I want everybody to understand that the current technology that's out there is part of the reason why you have some of the negative press on the product itself, because the product deserves and needs to be developed. The next generation e-cigarette will be completely different than the generation that people use today. And that is something that can only happen in an environment that has a legal product in it. In an environment where there is no legal product, right here in Hong Kong, for instance, the development of new products is going to slow down to a trickle. Because if you do not have a legal platform to provide the consumer with the next generation, there is no interest in creating the next generation of e-cigarette products. And I do believe, from where I'm standing today, that e-cigarettes in the next decade, maybe decade and a half, 10, 15 years, will actually surpass conventional tobacco use. Because of the regulation and because of what we know of conventional tobacco, with the carcinogens and the chemicals and all the different nitrosamines and cancer-causing agents that Dr. Fasolino talked about, smoking is a thing of the past. It's like the locomotives. And today we have electric trains. That is exactly the way you need to see the e-cigarette. It's going to get those individuals who use conventional tobacco products to steer away from that conventional product because of all the negative health effects that that product brings with it. The e-cigarette does not have those issues. And if the product is developed and technology evolves in this category, you're going to see a product that absolutely only delivers the one thing that people seek, which is the euphoria they get from conventional tobacco, minus all the negative health effects that are associated with conventional tobacco. The human body likes two things, or several things actually, but is very attached to two ingredients, which is caffeine and nicotine. Nicotine is not the problem. And if we can deliver nicotine in a manner that's consistent with what the e-cigarette brings the public, then that's the product for the future. And I believe that the e-cigarette, like I said, within the next 10 to 15 years, will actually change that tobacco category and potentially become the vaping category. And that's basically it. And if you guys got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I have a question, Ray. I mean, obviously, you're a manufacturer of e-cigarettes.
Correct.
But you're also involved with TVECA. Can you tell us a little bit about TVECA?
Thank you for asking. The TVECA is the Tobacco Vapor Electronic Cigarette Association. We are an association that basically looks at the industry. So we want to help those manufacturers, those producers of e-cigarettes, and those distributors of e-cigarettes to have an understanding on how to bring that product to the market, what the pitfalls are, how the regulation is going to affect your product, what the issues are with actually getting a product into the marketplace, which is different than a consumer advocacy group that is looking at the benefits of e-cigarettes for the consumer. We're looking at it from a business perspective, and that business perspective is extremely important because as long as we can provide the industry and those manufacturers and distributors alike with the right information so that we can get the right product to the market, it will ultimately help the consumer. And that is really what the TVECA is all about. I founded it several years ago, actually in 2010, and it has grown to become a global association and a foundation in Europe. And we are very proud to always provide the industry with the latest news, but also with assistance on potentially getting data collection and assistance with data collection for Europe, assistance with insurance for product liability, assistance with age verification for the US. There are a lot of things that we do that provide an assistance to those companies that are looking to get into the e-cigarette business or potentially are already in the e-cigarette business but don't have the knowledge that potentially we have in this category, but we've been in it for a long time, obviously.